Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Rishwin sir.
Hi, good
Good
afternoon, Pooja.
afternoon. Good afternoon, Nikhil sir.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you doing,
So,
Pooja?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Great, great. Hi, Rishwan.
Hello, hi, how are you doing?
Great, buddy, great.
So, I, Pooja Dua, welcome you on behalf of lawyers for another session of Founder Spotlight. In Founder Spotlight, we bring together advocates and startup founders or co-working space founders to discuss legal issues faced by entrepreneurs every day and various strategies to overcome them. So, for the next episode, we have Mr. Nikhil Madan with us and Advocate Rishwan Jeti, and we will be discussing about the PoSH on in co-working spaces. Before moving forward, I would like to request the audience to please stay safe and stay at home and get vaccinated as and when possible. I would also like to tell them that if Lawyer, being a legal tech platform, has launched a proven vaccine slot finder for the benefit of the community at large. Easily and quickly search available of COVID-19 vaccine slots nearest to you on the COVID portal to help with instant booking with a vision to create a legally empowered world. Moving forward, I would like to introduce both of our panelists. Today we have Mr. Nikhil Madan, who is the co-founder of the Office Pass Talk. He has been the co-founder for like last 4 years. He has also served as senior manager and senior executive and at Makan.com Private Limited. I welcome you, Nikhil sir.
Thank you very much, Pooja. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
We also have Advocate Divishun Jeti with us. He has been the associate at AZB Partners for 6 months and has also served as associate in Ikigai Law. Presently, he is being the advocate and is practicing law. I welcome you, Rishmi sir.
Hey, hi.
So, sir, moving forward, I just had one question that I was curious to ask the Nikhil sir. That how did you get the idea of the office pass?
Uh, well, thank you, Pooja, for asking this question, right? So we're pretty close to our hearts. So to understand this, so we need to go back 7 to 8 years, so when the concept was actually, making noise in the West. So we know how we work, the co-working giant was basically expanding its footprints and outside US, right? And in fact, in India also, the idea was picking up the steam overall, and there were a few companies who had picked up the idea. However, come 2017, so we launched our first office in Gurgaon, but we never wanted to actually copy paste the template, which was actually happening in the West. So a lot of credit actually goes to our other founder, Aditya, so who was studying about this concept pretty well, and so we worked out that we are going to be called as neighborhood co-working spaces. So unlike in West, wherein or we work, where they take up the huge spaces, carved out 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 odd seats. We thought, so we people should be working near their home. They should walk to work. So that's why we coined the term neighborhood co-working. And so yeah, and the office pass is like, this is a pass to your office, which is close to your office, I mean to your home, and that's how it is. So you can say, so what we are seeing now during the pandemic, more and more people, professionals, companies are opting for work from home. I mean, work from near home and walk to work concept. So you can say we were we envisaged it at that point of time, and so kind of flag bearers for walk to work concept. So yeah, so that's how we started our journey in 2017.
That's so nice and inspiring story, sir. So, Rishwan sir, you heard the story of Nikhil sir. Do you think that there is any issue that he can legally face in the future or must have faced?
So, one of the main issues I think that any office space, and again, I would not like to use the term issue, one of the main compliances that any office space would want to take care of, I think, would be PoSH itself. And this is agnostic of what concept, what city, what industry you are in, what your business model is. As long as you have more than 10 people in your office, that is something that you will have to take care of any which ways. So if that is one thing that you have in place, of course, that's one big burden of your compliance checklist. Number two would be, of course, all your licenses, all your permits, everything else. Again, it's primarily got to do with all the compliances and permits. Secondly, because the main working model that Nikhil and his company has is of accommodating people. They themselves are not into any production, any manufacturing. It's a service, and the service is of real estate. So of course all real estate related laws and compliances, they have to be in place. I think once that is sorted, more or less you would have covered about 90-95% of the space.
Indeed. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, when was the first time you felt the need of legal assistance, Nikhil sir? Like Vishnu sir mentioned a few compliances. So when was the very
Well,
first time?
well, for legal assistance, I would say from day one itself. We take up properties, so for longer durations, right? So there are a lot of terms and the conditions, the language of the agreements, so when we are actually taking up from the landlords, so which needs to be vetted from a legal standpoint, so when we are taking up, so of course, so when we are starting this organization, we wanted to be absolutely sure from the legal standpoint things have to be spick and span. So that's one. Apart from this, we also have the membership agreements. That also need to be legally vetted, and so we have one standard agreement which was made, of course. But then, so when you are dealing with the MNCs, or bigger enterprises, so they have their own legal teams as well. So of course, we understand we do the calls, we change the language, we understand, but of course what a legal expert can actually bring in, so that by far is the best thing. So from the day one itself, as I said, so we felt the need of the legal expert, and till today we do that. We go back to the legal guy because we want to be absolutely legally compliant with everything, as Rishwin has mentioned. So we don't want to leave any chance to anyone. And so similarly, like privacy policies or terms and conditions that I mentioned, and of late this PoSH policy also, we took cognizance of how the things are, globally, how the things are actually shipping up, and this PoSH is the need of the hour. So for this also, we enrolled a legal person, and we went ahead with it. So yeah, so from the very first day itself, we are dependent on legal.
Yeah, so we learned about the legal assistance and the compliances. So as we are talking about POSH today, Rishwan sir, is the POSH compliance mandatory for every co-working space?
Right, yeah. So in my previous answer itself, I said that it is PoSH is something which is agnostic of sector, it is agnostic of industry, it is agnostic of your business model. PoSH is something that across the country, any office space, and again, there's a definition of that in the act itself. I don't want to get into that. Point is, if there is anything which qualifies as workplace and has more than 10, I think, employees, they are supposed to be compliant with all the do's and don'ts mentioned under the act. So yes, as per what I have said, of course, co-working spaces also fall within the ambit. And I would say it is especially more important for co-working spaces to be PoSH compliant because you're not housing just one company or two companies. In fact, in certain instances, you may have just one employee of a company who is working out of your office, and probably their entire other team is based off of somewhere else. Does that mean that this one isolated person is sort of not offered any protection from the hundreds of other people who are working out of the same workplace? No, that is not the case. They are supposed to be given equal protection under the PoSH laws. So it is especially more important for all co-working spaces to make everybody sitting in their within their properties to feel safe from PoSH related issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as again, as we are talking about POSH only, and the POSH in basically in the co-working spaces. So, Nikhil sir, what PoSH challenges have you faced in your workspace?
Challenges, Pooja, per se, challenges pertaining to Posh we have not faced so far, to be honest with you. So I tell you what. So when we started this business, so we were absolutely clear, that we would like to create a very safe and healthy working environment, especially for women. You know, and that is why even if you go on our website, you'll see that we are extended discounts also to, especially to, to women members basically, to have more and more participation of them in the workplaces, right? And it is not just about that you have some policy in place or something. What we do, see, we focused, as I said, on increasing the participation of women employees. So as they say, the Rome was not built in a day. So we worked on a lot of things. We said no to a few profiles which we were not comfortable with. So as part of the community, they might not help, and we put a lot of checks and balances in creating. So who will be the kind of ideal member for us. And because as Rishwin has mentioned, so even if there's a one female employee or one female member sitting in the office, so they should feel comfortable coming to the co-working space because they do not have a dedicated HR or dedicated, CXO to actually go back to. So the onus lies on us, and to creating that kind of environment is something which we were very proud of, and perhaps those were the things which actually helped us see the women participation, the women percentage, at upwards of 35 odd percent, which is very healthy, I would say. So they feel comfortable. You, then of course your job is done. And of course good folks, good community around. So that is something we worked upon, we focused upon. So far we have not faced any challenges, to be honest. It's a good community, people, and it's a good space all around, good vibes. So as of now, no, nothing that we have faced.
That's nice. We always say that no legal challenges a person should face because it takes a lot of time to cope with legal challenges.
No,
So,
indeed, absolutely, absolutely.
hmm. So, Vishnu sir, as he mentioned that he has not yet faced, and we pray that he don't face any such issues. But a person asks, if a person faces such issue, then how can a co-working space address that sexual harassment case?
Right. I would like to personally slightly modify that prayer. I would not term it as saying that I hope he does not face any issues. I hope no woman has to face any such issues, which are eventually then sort of turned to TOP. Um, I think if any co-working space is uh, addressing any sexual harassment case or some complaint has been brought to their attention, depending on how their agreements have been structured. uh, a model that is typically followed in offices is that the person who's been accused is suspended pending inquiry. I think one of the first and foremost things that co-working space should do is to suspend the license or to suspend the retainership or the membership of the person or the office which has been accused of sexual harassment, so that pending the inquiry there can be no influencing that can be done by the person sitting in the office, by influencing any potential witnesses, something of that sort. So
Yep.
it should temporarily be suspended immediately so that the accused person is not present in the co-working space anymore. Number two, all posh mandates say that there has to be a committee with both external and internal members. So immediately, all complaints must be taken up as seriously as is practically possible, um, given all the circumstances, of course. And then immediately an inquiry should be initiated first with probably just internal members, and the external members should be included once you have sufficient details to feed that external member, of course. Um, and again, it should all be done impartially. It should all be done without any ulterior motives. if there is anything that comes out of it, it should be made publicly known to everybody in the office, except for the name of the victim and their details. But they could, of course, share that, we suffered an instance like this, but we have taken care of it. So we are trying to ensure that, nothing like this ever happens again. If it does, we're there for you. Basically, these things should not be kept hidden, is what I feel, from the rest of the members, except again, barring the name and details of the victim specifics. But people have the right to know that, in the vicinity, something like this has happened. Of course, the management has taken care of it, but this had happened in the past, and now it's all well and good in the future. And if there is a recommendation by the committee to take the case further to the court, or if the victim feels that, the committee has not dealt with it properly, of course, if there is an investigation which is being conducted by the courts with the help of the police, the co-working space should, of course, comply with them and should cooperate with them and supply with them with whatever kind of details that are deemed necessary, be it CCTV footage or access to any potential witnesses or any paperwork or anything of that sort. The ultimate motive, I'm sorry, of all of these acts, of all of these legislations, there is something which is my favorite in interpretation of statutes we read while we are studying law. There is this fine subject called interpretation of statutes, wherein we read and understand different rules of interpreting legislations and sections and acts. My favorite of those is called something called the Mischief Rule of interpretation. So essentially, all it means is that regardless of whatever is written in the act, sometimes we get into technicalities, and especially as lawyers, that is one of the favorite things that lawyers like to do. They will get into technicalities, and out of some misplaced word or comma or something, they would like to sort of get their client the best deal possible. But the Mischief Rule cuts across all of that and essentially says that if the intent behind a specific legislation was to meet one end of the justice, then none of these small errors, small technicalities, small uh, you know barriers here and there should prevent the legislation or the courts to help those means to be fulfilled. So I think that is how all investigations, and that is how most of the investigations, again, I don't want to be making a blanket statement here, but that is how most of the investigations should be done, and that is how the co-working space should also function. If the ultimate motive is to create a safe working space, then they should be doing all things possible within their realm, within their control, regardless of whether it is dictated in the act or not. You should not just rely on that. If there is something which you feel extra that you can do, which is definitely going to help female employees and even male employees for that matter feel safer in the workspace, they should be doing that. So that's my 2 cents on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as Rishwan sir mentioned about the ICC committee, so sir, does POP has an ICC or LCC committee?
Yeah, absolutely, Pooja. And Rishwan, I'm absolutely, with you. Basically, when you talk about, the companies needs to formulate these policies and all. So, see, it's the starting point. Basically, is the thought process. So you need. Do you think that there is an importance of PoSH policy? If you feel that yes, it is important, then you will go ahead and do something about it. So I'm not sure about how many, so companies are having this PoSH policy still in place, though the act is, since 2013, I guess, you would be knowing better, but I think since 2013, how many companies are compliant to PoSH policies? How many are actually submitting, their audits and all? So, but with that being said, yes, so again, the same premise, so when we thought that we would like to have a very safe, a very healthy working environment for women, so how, so basically it's your intent which should get reflected into your actions, right? So yes, that is why, as I said, we took a proactive approach, and we went ahead, we adopted the PoSH policy, we drafted, we took legal experts advices, so what all should be there, because see, we are not the legal experts, right? So from the act standpoint, so how many members should be there in the ICC committee, who should be the chairperson and all, so only the legal person can actually help us in drafting all those things. So we were serious about it, right? We are serious about this concept. We are serious about this creating a safer environment for women's in, and not only for members but for our employees also, at our spaces. And therefore, this proactive approach has also helped us in mitigating all these cases, perhaps, which also acts as a deterrent also, if you see, so if the communication is actually happening. So how we did, I tell you. So we when we drafted the policy, we very prominently put it on our website, so everyone knows that there's a PoSH policy in place. So this space is PoSH compliant, number one. Number two, we did a lot of communication campaigns as well. So when I say communication campaign, it's like we put posters around in around our offices, right? Communicating. So what is PoSH, what's wrong, what's right, and all those things. And then of course we ran a few visuals also in the common areas, in the conference and the meeting rooms, so that if people are sitting there, they should So when it is actually playing again, it re-emphasizes on these PoSH policies that Office Pass is actually having. And also, before this lockdown, so we worked on creating some awareness workshops as well, at a couple of our offices. Of course, as soon as the lockdown opens, and also we plan to do at all the offices that we have. But yeah, so again, as I said, so where the role plays happen, the workshops happen, the training happens, so everyone appreciates that this is something which is the need of the hour, right? Not many people are actually doing it. The company's doing it, but they should do it so that more and more safer space or working environment for women can be created. So as I said, so it's the germination of thought. That's first and foremost, which is foremost, which is very important. So once you do that, and then you can weave the things around that. This is how the things are going to be, and this is how we work at Office Pass. So yes, answering to your question, Pooja, yes, we do have the policy which mandates that you should have an ICC, which is committee. So we do have that. So we have, comprehensively, as I said, we took advice from a legal expert. So chairperson is there, who's a senior member, a woman, and then the two-third of the ratio, the women should be there, and the proportion of male members should be less in the committee. So all those things are well taken care of. So we are pretty sorted in those aspects.
You're on mute, Puja, I believe.
Later.
Yeah.
So I was asking Nikhil sir that as we are talking about ICC committee, one general and basic question that came into my mind I want to ask you, sir, that I read somewhere that ICC committee recommends compensation payment of an amount to the aggrieved women. So who pays this amount and on what basis is this amount paid?
See, again, so how you draft the policies, it depends what is the damage. And see, there are various steps also. I think Rishan would be much aware of all these things. But, how we actually draft this, I tell you, so I can enlighten them how we do that. So it's like, so we created the policy and we have actually documented over there. So what are the steps, so what will happen? So as also one of the steps is like, so till the inquiry is actually happening. So you're not entitled to enter the office, you know and I mean the victim, so that the victim is not harassed or something. She doesn't feel offended. So that is something we worked upon. Now talking about the compensation part, right? So there can be something. I've heard. In fact, when we were making this policy, I've read somewhere that so one female complained about this, and there was a senior member of the organization. When the internal committee, they actually deducted, I think, 70% of the salary, for the next 3 or 4 months. So various policies. I mean, how you go ahead and implement, but of course, yes. Then because we can go ahead, ICC awards basically, so their verdict. So this is what is actually happening. So whosoever is the victim, basically, they need to be compensated. So a person who is accused, so of course, that needs to go ahead and do the compensation part.
Right. So as you mentioned that you didn't face any such issue like POSH issue in TOP. So
Yeah.
do you think that if you face such issue in future, you are well compliant with the resources and the committee and all the things?
Of course, why not? So that was the reason for creating that policy, right? To be, so basically, why you create the policies so that you are aware and people around are aware. So first and foremost, the members, they are aware that there is a policy. These are the steps. Basically, if they are harassed, so this is how. They need to go about it, so this is, so we have a dedicated email ID, so where they can actually shoot the mail, and it actually goes to only the handful of people in the management. So it's not that it's going to the entire organization. So then of course we would go ahead and review, so how the things are, so what is the complaint, and we pass it on to the ICC. So of course, so as I said, so we have everyone on roles. So we have identified who will be assigned these tasks, who will be taking care of these aspects. So everything, we have actually covered all those points. So the reason, we're doing it is just to, proactively do that. So just in case tomorrow, God forbid, any such thing happens, at least we know what needs to be done. At that point of time, we will not be just running around and saying, okay, ab kya karne ka. It's not like that. So, and also the members, the employees, they should be aware if such thing has actually happened with them. If they have felt this, then what needs to be done from their side also. Until unless they are not aware, they might also not be, in a comfortable position to raise. But when they know there is someone they can raise to, and someone is going to hear, then of course it makes a lot of difference. So yeah, we are absolutely sorted with that aspect.
Yes, sir. So I just had these questions to ask to both of you. Let's move forward to audience questions. So we have a question from Momit. He has asked that are you following all the protocols in your co-working space mentioned in the PoSH Act?
Yeah, so Mohit, right? Yes, sir.
Hmm.
So yes, Mohit. Although protocols, as I said, so we are basically, we have drafted this policy. We have taken the cognizance of how the things are, and referring to the legal experts only. So what are there in the act? So we have incorporated, considering all those things only, those policies. So which talks about, for instance, so there has to be periodic workshops, training sessions for the members around to make awareness about that. So this is something which is there. So yes, and of course also that you need to submit an audit report. The ICC needs to submit an audit report, every year, that whether the instance has happened or instance has not taken place, right? In both the cases. So yeah, so those protocols, of course, we are taking care of those things.
Yes, so I think Mohit got the answer to his question. I think these were the only questions that we had to ask both of you, and both of you answered every question very beautifully. Thank you for joining us today. Please accept a small token of appreciation from our side. Thank you, Nikhil sir.
No, thank you, thank
Thank you,
you.
Rishmi sir.
Thanks.
Thank you for taking out your time and giving us your valuable time. Thank you so
Hey,
much
thanks
and stay
everyone,
safe.
and stay safe. God bless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bye,
Stay safe,
everyone. Bye,
everyone.
Pooja.
Bye. Bye.
Take
Bye,
care.
Nikhil. Bye. Bye, Pooja.